L'chaim, l'chaim. When I was first asked to speak tonight, so I asked the person who asked me, what should I talk about? He said, talk about Yud Alef Nissan. So I thought to myself, Avada, I heard Rosh Hashanah, you talk about Kabbalah Samalchus, Erev and Kippur, you talk about. I mean, how can you just get up and talk about Yud Alef Nissan? Yud Alef Nissan, one can say, Vi Teres Abba Shemte, that the Rebbe sent down in Shomach Hadosha. And as a result of that, we are here today, and the whole Shtalshalus from Adam Arishan onwards, and that in Lasus Leis Barach Dira B'Tachtenim, all was coming through the Rebbe and all the Rebbe's Shluchim. So it's not something you can just talk about, and it's very nice, and the Zechrenes, etc., etc. But I want to mention some very important points. Rabbi Vogel mentioned that in Tov Shin, when was it? When the Shnas HaShivim. So the Rebbe gave out to anybody who was building Moisdes, the Rebbe gave out from his kos. The Thursday before the Fabrengen, there was a Rav from Australia, I don't want to mention his name, is Sheikh Hanofer, and the Rebbe said to him, "Da boy noch a mikveh in Sydney." Now everybody knows when you build a mikveh, it's cause guilt and this, and you have the balabatim don't always want, and there's always problems. It's not something that comes easy. But you're talking about those years, like today is the Baruch Hashem Yingalait have much, the financial situation of Yingalait has improved. So he says to the Rebbe, and he goes into a discussion with the Rebbe about should we make the mikveh or we shouldn't make the mikveh. And the Rebbe is pushing very strong with Avhom the mikveh. And the Rebbe says the plans are already there and everything, etc., etc. And that's how the conversation finished. It didn't reach an Emek HaShova. Comes Shabbos by the Fabrengen, and the Rebbe gets up and says, anybody who wants, who's building a Moisdes for 9 Alaf Moisdes, he'll give him his kos. So this rabbi jumps up, and he goes over to the Rebbe. And everyone knows the Rebbe is the Amoker HaChesed VaToiv. And like he puts his cup out. So the Rebbe looks at him very, very with a smile and says, "Ir toch aber nicht Masken gewen auf Boyen. You didn't accept that you're going to build it." So this guy, the Rebbe get a kos, you don't say no. He says, "Aber mit Gerät wegen dem." So the Rebbe didn't miss a beat and says, "Et me reden wegen geben." And he didn't give him. There you see something very, very interesting. One of the things that we have still not, but each individual has to ask himself, the Rebbe is a melech, and a melech is Omar Malka Okatura. Whatever the Rebbe asks of us, whatever it may be, makes no difference whatsoever what it may be things which are heipach tivoi, and Heipach Ritzainai. The Rebbe asked Yingalai to go to Australia. Anybody knows what's going on in Australia now? It's an unbelievable situation. First of all, you got to travel who knows how many hours. And it's upside down. The world doesn't verkehrt. And people picked themselves up and they went. Not because the Gashmis is so good and not because the Ruchnis is so good. Weil azeh the Rebbe gewollt. And the Poyel Mamish, that which the Rebbe was interested in setting up the Shluchim and demanding of each and every single one of us to give himself totally away. That if you're an Eved Melech, as Eved Melech has to do exactly what the Melech wants, und vergessen wegen sich, and forget about what he wants. And not that you tight choice the Rebbe's Werter, what I want. You have to be totally and completely bottled to the Melech mit alle Hidurim. Even if you don't understand it, and even though it takes away everything. That's not what a Melech is about. A Melech is not about that I will tell the Melech what to do, and if I like what he gives me, the instructions, I'll listen, and if I don't like it, can drain our cup v'chulu v'chulu. And therefore, when we talk about Yud Alef Nissan, and we talk about what the inyan of a melech is, and how we have to stand in front of the melech, and how we have to behave in front of the melech, and how we have to ask ourselves when we do something, if the melech was standing there, would we behave in such a way? I once heard, I think from my shver, that the Frierdiker Rebbe by a tish upstairs said, they were sitting, the Alter Chassidim, all the white beards. I shouldn't make fun of white beards because, but all these fellas go with white beards. So man meint an Alter Chassidim, the Greise Evdim and Achveis, v'chulu, v'chulu. So the Frierdiker Rebbe said very seriously, the Tate will da gesessen, wollte Recha sie geführt sich. That if the Rebbe Rashab would be sitting here by the table, would you also behave that way? We have to understand that Anhoge of we are the shluchim of Tmimim vis-a-vis the Rebbe is not just a regular type of Anhoge. There has to be, when we say Kabbalas oil, when we say we have to be bottle betachlis, uns nicht stocken ich, no such thing. If the Rebbe says we have to do something, whatever it may be, soll sein Rambam, soll sein Pirkei Avos, whatever it should be, there has to be a certain level of Kabbalas El HaMalchus, as if the Rebbe is standing there, and every moment of the day you realize that the Rebbe is standing, now we know that the Rebbe many times, when it came to Yom Haledes, came to Yud Alef Nissan, it started off very quietly. It started off from Yayim Yom. Yud Alef Nissan, the first time is mentioned Bechlal, that the Rebbe had Yom Haledes. It didn't say that it's Yom Haledes, but everybody knew, and I think there was a story told that when the Rebbe's mother, Allah Shalom Rebbetzin Chana, came to Paris, so someone showed her the Hayom Yom and asked her, what does it mean? She says, yeah, das ist the talk about the Rebbe geboren. And the Rebbe right away in the beginning, Yud Alef Nissan was not really accepted so much. I remember when we were in Kfar Chabad, this is Tov Shechov Zayin, we sat a Fabrengen in the old shul, we have 10 people, maybe 11 people. And slowly but surely it grew. And people realized it. But when the Rebbe came out, and he heard that people want to give presents, so what does it mean you want to give the Rebbe presents? So number one, you want to be getting Nachas Ruach, the Rebbe, not what you want to do. The Rebbe should have Nachas Ruach. So the first thing the Rebbe said, klor, without any question whatsoever, the Rine von Asifa and Limud HaTorah. Not only Asifa and Limud HaTorah, giving out koiftzim, being mechadish chidushim. I remember we had, I think it was Tafshin Ayin Hey, yeah. When we made a kovetz in England called Madani Melech. And we had an individual, Simcha Binim Lieberman, Zechene Levroche, was a Ger Chossid, even a Grei Salam, and he had many Kiksav Yad, and he had a Rakanati on time mitzvahs. So we put it in. So we got an answer right away. The Rebbe wants a photostat of the Ksav Yad also. The Rebbe looked at every single prat and detail that was on that kovetz, and he wanted to make sure it was there. But the Rebbe wanted kovetz. Why does the Rebbe want kovetz? Because he knows you have a kovetz, you have to be mechadish, you got to sit, you got to learn something. And that has bechlal to do with Limmud HaTorah. That and to be moisif every single day. There's a beautiful story which I always tell, which I heard me pek kochi from the Rebbe. The Rebbe told the story. They got a letter from someone, and the fellow writes to him as follows: that last year or 2 years ago, he came to the Fabrengen. The Rebbe said he should be moisif and Limmud HaTorah. So he was moisif. Came a year later, the Rebbe added on again. I should be moisif and Limmud HaTorah. No. Came a third year, and the Rebbe said the same thing, and he writes to the Rebbe as follows: I started off with 6 hours a night that I sleep. The first time he said we have to be Meisel Matera, it was 5.5. Last year was 5. Jetzt halt ich by 4.5. And the Rebbe bursts out laughing. He said, I can't nicht. So the Rebbe said, doesn't mean dafke bekamos, it means beechos. But the Rebbe, and by Bochurim, we don't have to talk about, we have to talk to Bochurim about Limmud HaTorah Zagelechter. The Rebbe wants to tell the famous Mechides that he said to Monke Gruzman in Tov Shechov Zayin, as ich will, as meine Rabbocher, so sein Klor von Chumish bis in Shagasarje. The Rebbe wanted his Bochurim to be lomdim uflogim. There's a very famous story that the Rebbe came down from the Friedrich Rebbe in Tovshin Dalet, I think it was. And there was about 11, 15, or 11, 13, 14 Bochurim in Zal. And the Rebbe goes inside. It says, "Chum jetzt from Schwer." And the Rebbe said, "The Schwer will," and he points his finger as do and do and do. And each and every single one of us, as I'm poshet lamdonim, poshet to learn. Forget about what was mentioned before, Rebbe Shlomo, about the Mamorim and the Siches. On our shir, on our break that the Rebbe gave us. And as the Rebbe told once, Rebbe Leib Nefetter, the Favemen Schreibich, there were many times, the Rebbe Ragmes Nefesh, that there were certain kashas that people waited 20 years, or 20 Jahre, bis dem es jetzt gehabt hat, dort teg nicht. Or there's something very funny. Just to mention one of the most interesting things that I remember, which had an unbelievable impact on me. Everyone knows that Rabbi Mentlik, Zechreinu Livrocha, was the one who poured the Rebbe's wine and stood there by the Fabrengen and didn't move. And so he went Tovshin Chavtes. And the Rebbe said, I said something last year, and I waited 12 months for someone to say something and ask a kasha. The Rebbe said that he took Tofreish, he took the mitzvah tefillin. So guys, Taine, what's etwas tefillin, whatever. So the Rebbe said, ich habe genommen ein mitzvah, and I left you guys, Tofreish should base mitzvahs. So der Rebbe, wer sagt, dass tefillin ist ein mitzvah, kann sein tefillin sagt zwei mitzvahs. Und der Rebbe said, ich habe gewartet ein ganzes Jahr, and nobody answered the question. And you saw the Agmas Nefesh on the Rebbe's face. No question about it. So Rav Mentlik, who never moved in front of the Rebbe, went over and told the Rebbe mit gefragt the kasha. And the Rebbe said, aber zu mir ist es nicht gekommen. But the Rebbe wanted that people should know the Sichas, that people should know the Maimorim. And whatever we have today was kumtar is every time you open the WhatsApp, there's another thing coming out, another thing coming out. To push and have the time, I don't see how a bocher can stand around outside and palpel and dreh a kop when there's so much to learn, when you just look physically. Also sein Zeit. Sei Diggers Kedish, and sei Lekute Sichas, and sei the Maimorim. Where do you have time to waste around and to dreh a room in the gassen, and stamp, plöder and dvor betelim, tog ein and tog goes? Where does this come from? Bochum after realized they have an achrais. Noch the chasn is an ander meister. You can't have it in both ways. A bochum b'shas sits in the dalad ames has no time. Forget about avedis hatfila. Forget about krish mishalamita. All these different things. Who is this guy? Rabbi Shlomo said, who's supposed to do it? It's the bochum that is supposed to do it. So when we come on before Yud Alef Nissan, and Yud Alef Nissan, we know that Pesach was the Rebbe's yontif. Mi'avdus lecherus. And on the Rebbe you saw, say by the Zdorim, say by the davening, an unbelievable level of simcha when it came Chag Pesach. Unbelievable level. You could actually see. And the Rebbe wanted that every single bocher and every single person who considers himself to be a makusher, everybody can say I'm a makusher. It's very easy to say it. You can write it down, I'm a makusher. Why? Because I wear a basalino and a chabzoken azeh, but das wäre a chosid. Mit wertisch kichsidim with chitzenis. Avada chitzenis is very, very important. Avada in Shtavas Reden. The alle Peilische about chitzenis, who knows what happened to them. Aber le Poel, Chabad is nicht gebeut auf chitzenis. Chabad is gebeut auf pnimis. And not only that, when it came Yud Alef Nissan Tovshin Lamed Beis, the label grown went into the Rebbe, and the Rebbe took out $500, and he said, Gay und kaif misforim from my yemeledes. And the Meiches Forum took the money. Or whatever it is, when we're talking a few weeks, a few months before Yud Alef Nissan, everybody has to ask himself, Poshet kipshutoi. Mayes kashes besteht in ich will ausführen, was der Rebbe will, nicht was ich will. What's comfortable for me, what I want. That's not what Chassidus is about. Chassidus is about what the Rebbe will. And to finish off with a story, there was a Polish young man who went into Yechidus. And as he came out, he saw one of the maskirim. And he said to the maskir, Ich habe gesehen, offene Riech HaKodesh. You know, these Polish, they get excited. The Rebbe says something, offene HaKodesh, they know, they lose their, whatchamacallit, they're cool and everything. So the next morning, the masker went in, and as the minhag was, the Rebbe used to ask, "Who's hat epis gehört from Yechidus the night before?" So he told over the story that this guy, Mamish, says it's gehört, Mamish, gesehen, the Riach HaKodesh bepoil Mamish. So the Rebbe didn't wait a half a second and said, "Und jetzt hat folgen," and now he's going to listen. The Rebbe is not interested in Matonos, mit Meises. The Rebbe will soll folgen. That's why he took on the Nesias, and that's why all the heroes he gave us. And as he told Reb ניסן, Bemes he would say more. But he knows that not all the Elam is like Zerish not Sibi Yochel Amid, but there's certain things the Rebbe would tell us we wouldn't be able to do. There's certain Chassidim, the Rebbe told certain things. But for everybody, so Reb ניסן came out, if I bring the whole night, I give back cook, the Rebbe wollte uns geben a sach mehr, a lot more. But we're not maybe kalim for that. So therefore, every bocha before Yud Alef Nissan, we make an achonis of 6 months. First of all, Asifa and Limud HaTorah, there's no question that was the Yisod and the Iker that the Rebbe wanted. Poshet mizal sitzen and lernen, horeven and lernen, kipshutoy. Nigele and Chassidus, everything. Mishloch HaNorach, mit alle Sachen. Chutz dem Zavedes HaTfilo, nachus dem Mivtzoyim. And something which the Rebbe said also, which was very interesting, wie viel Menschen hast du gebringt zum Rebbe? There was a phrase the Rebbe used many, many times. He threw it around from time to time. How many people did you bring to the Rebbe? He didn't mean that they had to physically bring him. Sometimes that's also important. But people who don't know that the Rebbe exists, or people never learned Asifa from the Rebbe, people never saw about the Rebbe, how do we connect and more people again and again and again to bring them close to the Rebbe and to tell them that the Rebbe is the one who's going to take us out of Golus and bring us to Yisrael and build the Beis HaMikdash? How many people do we get to? Do we talk about this clearly? And if everyone does a little bit what they can do, at Mezeicha Takazen, this is Galus von Rebbe and Binyan Beis HaMikdash b'Meir B'Yameinu Mamish.